And good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner and editor of What's Up Noop. Joining me this morning is our news editor, Mr. Frank Prosnitz. Good morning, Frank.
Yeah, good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I can't hear. There you are. You're a slight delay, but I caught on with you.
Okay.
I haven't seen you in so long. Is all well there in the mainland of Rhode Island?
Yeah, all is in these incredibly different times. Okay.
All right, excellent. So tell us a little bit about the guests that we are having on today. So far, I see that Ron is with us. And, well, tell us a little bit about our guests while I get us set up here.
Pete Ron Cardi. They're Cardi's Furniture. Everybody knows Cardi's Furniture. Some of the things that really attract me to these guys, first of all, it's a great business, has a great history in Rhode Island. But they are, of all the businesses that I know, small and large, probably more committed to community than any organization I know. And we'll talk about that. I was just looking at the various projects that they are promoting using their website, using media where they advertise. It is a wide range of different organizations, and we certainly want to get into that. I want to talk a little bit about the history of Cardi so people know about it. And also I was Ron, I don't know if Ron's listening at the moment, but one of the questions I have is when we sit here with all of what's gone on recently with the peaceful marches, but also those that have become violent. Cardi's is certainly the kind of place that would have to take some precautions in one sense or another. Curious about that. Curious about some kind of the training that you give to some of your employees relative to equality, if you will, and dealing with and employing minorities. So I want to get into a little bit of that as well. And who knows where we go? We may talk about spaceships and.
Well, that was a
mouthful. I know Ron is really versed on spaceships.
I don't know too much about spaceships, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
We can.
Good
Great.
morning, Ron.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Peter should be joining us any second. He encouraged me to be on time, so he must be hiding somewhere, but he should be ready to go.
He's usually on time, I think. But
I think so.
So maybe, Ron, you could start in just to lay a little foundation. How many stores does Cardi's have now?
Well, we have stores in West Warwick, Rhode Island. As you know, we have a Cardi's store, Rhode Island Design Center, and Ashley Home Store. We have a Cardi's store in Swansea, Massachusetts, a big box. We have a Cardi's store in Attleboro, Mass, and an Ashley Home Store within that same facility. We have a Cardi's store in Wareham, Massachusetts. We have one in Hyannis. We have a small one in South County Commons, which is a combination small furniture store and mattress store. We have 10 mattress stores scattered around New England. We have a Cardi store in Seabrook, New Hampshire, and an Ashley store in Chicopee, Mass. And so it keeps us pretty busy. And we try to do what we do best and sell furniture, make people comfortable, and move on.
So take me back to the beginning. Where did it all begin?
Oh my God. Going back, you're dating me now. We go back to actually 1928. It was started by our grandmother in the Knightsville section of Cranston as a general store. And that evolved into hardware, appliances, carpeting. Our father, Nicholas Cardi Sr., and our uncle Peter were partners for decades. And then Pete, Nick, and myself, joined the business. Basically, we were working there since we were little kids. Hey, it's Peter. Joined the business since we were little kids. And then, like I said, we've been working on a truck since we could walk.
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
We're doing well. We're just getting a little bit of background about the stores. Let me ask you about how this coronavirus has impacted you, and in the various states, how things are. Have they reopened in every state? If not, how are you reopening, and how is that going?
So Rhode Island is open completely, and New Hampshire is open completely. Massachusetts no, from a standpoint of showroom access. But our delivery, warehousing, and corporate office is working right now to facilitate those locations. So the process hopefully will be next week, the 8th or 9th, that we'll be able to open in Massachusetts. But New Hampshire and Rhode Island are working and functioning. We've been blessed with no corona concerns at all in any of our locations or any of our staff. So that's a good thing. And also with our families. And we hope you are the same. And that's all we can hope for, is everybody's healthy and we keep plugging.
During the shutdown, did you have to lay anybody off?
We had people that actually, I think it was up to 10 weeks that were on the program, meaning that were being paid, that we paid for. So our staff was being paid and not at work. So we did that for quite a long time. There may have been a few days in between from when we closed to, from the last 10 weeks to when we reopened. There was a little buffer time there that we went through, but we paid 100% of everyone's benefits and still paying that until they return, hopefully this coming week.
How many employees do you have in total?
Ron, about how many are we running right now?
450.
In all of the stores?
Correct.
So according to the SBA, you guys are still a small business.
Correct. Well, we
SBA
look at it like that. I mean, we are small. I mean, we're a family business. We are here most days, probably more than you want to realize. But it's a very flat company in the respect that we don't screen phone calls. People can get to anybody at any time. Yes, we're a small business in that sense of the word, with a big heart, and hopefully, do nice things and able to take part in the community and deliver furnishings from top to bottom at all price points, from something very modest to something extravagant. So big and small, I guess, in a lot of ways.
So I want to get to a lot of that charitable stuff momentarily, because that's really important. But your beginnings were in small business, and with the happenings over the last few days, a number of small businesses have really suffered. Be they in Philadelphia, in Providence, in in Chicago. What have you done to secure your stores, and give us just a little bit of take on your emotions relative to this violence?
A little bit from a lot of it, people could blame the corona thing a little bit, where they say, with all that aspect of it. So the first thing was make everything safe from that aspect, from the corona side. So that being done, now it's like another thing. And now the next thing, I guess, is hurricane season. So it's like one thing after another. But from the safety perspective, last night let's say today is what, Ron? It's Wednesday. Last night, Tuesday, we closed at 7 o'clock. When we heard that, and our stores are not near the areas where the concerns were. However, we felt it appropriate, because some of our staff do live in some of the cities or have to drive through the cities that were affected by curfew. And we thought it was prudent to close an hour before the curfews took place to give everyone plenty of time to get home. So we've adjusted in that regard. So even though our stores aren't really in the mix of that and aren't really technically affected by the curfew in all the cities we're in, except I think our Cranston mattress store, still we thought it appropriate to do that. So I think any situation, whether it's this or something else, it's kind of like, and not trying to minimize it, what happened was terrible, and thoughts and prayers go out to the family of everyone affected by this. But the essence of it is kind of like a situation where if you have a snow event or a hurricane event or something else, it's something totally out of our control, something that happened, and you have to adjust to it from a business perspective. So even though we have no control over it, we feel terrible it happened, and our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody, then we have to adjust as a business. So to go to your point, Frank, what can we do to keep our people safe? And part of it is to remove people from harm's way, and that way is to close early.
Do you have vendors that might have been affected by any of this violence?
We've got vendors all over the globe. mostly concentrated in the U.S., but we have them all over the globe. So they definitely are affected, whether it be the coronavirus or this type of violence, depending upon where they're located and what city. To some different, everyone's to a different degree. It obviously disrupts transportation when highways are affected. Safety of everyone is paramount, obviously. So yeah, to some degree, it does affect our partners around the globe, but we do our best to. We have a fairly sizable distribution center, and so if there's a little hiccup one day, one way or another, unless it's a custom order that we're waiting to arrive, we can usually satisfy the needs of our customers.
So it appears that this violence was at least sparked by people coming from outside with extremist viewpoints who were trying to incite either themselves or to incorporate people from the local community. But most of these protests have been peaceful, and they have focused on not only this death, but I was looking up this morning. I wanted to see how many African Americans had been killed by police over the last couple of years, and the figure is close to 100, even 2 since this incident in Minneapolis. And so it's a really systemic problem that we have that is not only about police, but it's really about society in general and how individuals are dealing with that. What do you do in terms of Cardi's in a minority employees and minority customers? What kind of training do you offer and provide for your staff?
Well, a lot of it is the sensitivity training that we go through is pretty extensive. We did it. We didn't realize how much of it we did until we did the COVID training. So when you go through that, that's a whole laundry list of items. And whether it's sexual harassment training, where we bring in specialty groups in organizations or companies that specialize in that, to sensitivity training for not only for when you have people, as you mentioned, of either different backgrounds, different heritage, come from different parts of the world that work with us. And we think we've got a pretty fair mix of everybody. And now the situation is also for people with special needs. So we have people that have varying abilities that work with the company. And this goes back to even other things that were in the news prior, not from a standpoint of someone's background, but or from their heritage, but from, unfortunately, if they have some limitations mentally or physically, and how they dealt with, where police would come into a situation or someone that was working with them and they were acting differently, not because they were being belligerent or concerned, but it's just because of the way they work. So there's not only sensitivity training from all the things that you discussed, but we even take it much further. So it's a lot that goes into it, and you got to kind of take a holistic approach, and that's what we try to do. We try to do our best.
And you do it also by how you reach out into the community and all of these organizations and events that you're promoting. I'm sure your staff takes pride in those as well.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it is we were just up in New Hampshire doing food for vets with friends at Ocean State Job Lot, who do a fantastic job with that. The Kraft family, the Patriots, and they were doing this sporadically through different areas. I shouldn't say sporadically; they're actually doing it pretty finitely through all areas of New England. And we were the host site in Seabrook for 2 of the events. They went over 3 different days, I believe. So whether it's for veterans, whether it's for all the different group organizations, we've always been part of the community. That's kind of how we were raised, and our staff embraces that also. We're very proud of that.
Before we get into some of these individual things, talk to me about the culture. Talk to me about how community became important to your business.
Well, I think that you got to go back to the way people are raised. There's no college course that I know of or any education. Well, I guess there is somewhat in education, but we were brought up with a pick and shovel in our hand, and taught that you can only, eat so much at one time, no matter how hungry we get. One pair of pants at a time, one pair of shoes, that type of thing. The basics, the logics, half a loaf is better than none. A lot of the old corny phrases as people would maybe want to portray them. But if you were brought up, basically, we had to give credit to our parents. We can't really take credit for how that happened. So the parental thing really played a huge part in it, in making sure that you share and give back to whatever level you can. So I think that, charity, I think George Bush said it best back, a decade ago, I guess now, maybe more. Americans are very generous. You just got to, give them time to do what they got to do. But the bottom line to it is that people need to do whatever is best in their pocket, in their mind, and what they want to do. And then it'll all work out if everybody does what they're capable of, because everybody's got some great talent. And sometimes, like we found, even with the coronavirus, like these masks that everyone's wearing, that we had a bunch of people. Peter's wife, Dina, is a big sewer and has a whole group of people that sews and stuff. And they made thousands of these things to give out to people. And that's when you got to remember, when this first started, there weren't any masks. So,
Right.
we had people making them and handing them out to their neighbors and friends. And so it comes in a wide variety. I don't want to go on and on about it. I think it's just a matter of what you're comfortable with, and that you can understand that it's not all about you. I mean, one of the favorites that I have with stories is with my two daughters, of when they were tiny, bringing them in for Toys for Tots. And so my wife went out and had them buy some gifts, and then brought them in and put them in the box. And when they put them in the box, you thought they were giving away the king's jewels. I mean, they were screaming, kicking, crying. And then the next year that they did it, they still weren't happy, but they kind of got it. And then, about the third or fourth time, they got it. But so that's what it takes. I think it's all about how they're raised. They just got to understand it's not all about them. And it's not that it isn't partially about you. Of course, you want to be comfortable and happy, but the main thing is to do what you can do and try to help out when you can. And we'd like to think that we do our part. That's all it is.
Now, you mentioned Toys for Tots, and I've been in the store a number of times when you guys have been running Toys for Tots with stuff that I do with WBLQ. And I remember conversations we had of people coming in with their kids donating toys, but they were some of the kids who received the toys when they were young. So what comes around goes around, I guess.
There you
You
go.
some great stories. Well, let's talk about some of these things that you are supporting. A couple of arts things. The Wickford Art Association has this virtual art gallery that's going on, and also there's this 18th annual online auction for arts going on up in Woonsocket at the theater, at the Stadium Theater up there, that runs through June 9th. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, the Stadium Theater, Frank, does a wonderful job. They are kind of like the PPAC of Woonsocket. They have an unbelievable. If you haven't been there, you got to go. And it's kind of like a mini Juilliard. They have not only obviously the performing area, but they also have an area for the kids to do training, music rooms, dance studios, the whole bit. So this is their time, usually May 28th, the last Thursday of the month. They do a one-night event, but because of the coronavirus and can't do it in person, they did it virtually. They're doing it online. So it's running, I believe, for a few more days. The date is, I think, through June 9th, and they've got some tremendous auction items. This is one of their big fundraisers, and it's typically a huge food event. So they have two main food companies that do the sponsoring of it, and there's continued to do it. So what you found with these auction events and online events is that a lot of the people that were supporting these organizations through the years continue it. And that's what we found with Stadium Theater. We're still involved with it. All the groups that were involved with it, because they have to get through this time period just like all of us to be there. So when we want to go see the shows, when we want, our kids to go do some theater, that'll be there. So that's happening right now, and you can go online and go to stadiumtheater.org and check it out, or go to cardis.com. There's a link there to to bid on the items. And they're going to have, I think, a Facebook Live finale, 5 o'clock on the 9th. Should be fun.
Wickford Art Association, of course. They didn't put on this what's really the largest art festival in Rhode Island by far, the Wickford Art Association, Wickford Art Festival, and you're also supporting a virtual art gallery, I guess, that they have going on.
Yeah, they do a great job, and I think it's Judy and the team down there. They've been at this for a while, as you know. It's very, very popular, huge event through Wickford. They kind of take over the whole town, and for many days, and for years and years and years. But just like everyone else, they've gone to a combination of they're doing some live stuff, some in-person stuff that they're trying to plan around, but a lot of it is online. And again, to support the community, we need to support these groups so that they can do their thing, because this Corona thing won't last forever, and next year they'll be back, and it'll be a fun event to go to. But we got to support them so that they can be there.
You're also supporting on the website Providence YMCA, Be Kind RI, 18th annual. That's the live auction. Empowerment Factor. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. Rhode Island Foundation, and donate blood and food, not necessarily at the same time, but
Hopefully not.
But let's touch on some of those that you feel are important. Those, I think, the ones we talked about are really event oriented. Are any of these other event oriented?
So, Ron, if you want to talk about Steve O'Donnell with the YMCA with the food drive.
Well, Steve does a phenomenal job, and the YMCA really stepped up, especially in the beginning of this COVID thing, where people couldn't leave the house, and again, depending upon where they were located and what kind of situation they were in. And Steve really spearheaded that whole program to make sure they got food to the house. So Gem Plumbing, ourselves, Big Blue Bug Solutions, Ocean State Job Lot, a bunch of people. Peter, if I forgot one, tell me who it is. But they all.
And McLaughlin Moran.
McLaughlin Moran, thank you. Sorry, yes.
Yep.
They all did yeoman's work in terms of getting vans and stuff, which our team also participated in, and getting it delivered to where it needed to go. But they stepped up immediately. The Y stepped up immediately, did what they needed to do. They're a strong, integral part of the community. It's interesting to look at that whole program and where Steve has taken it. But when you go down to their facility on the water in South Kingston, and you get to all these different places and see what they're all about, they truly, talk about getting to the grassroots level. And a lot of people that they've taken to the water have never been to the beach, or don't, really get to participate in things in nature with the woods and seeing animals and all that other type of stuff. So they just do phenomenal work. So whether it be feeding people or educating them or the culture, he's right in the middle of it. Obviously, his work with the state police gave him a good background to deal with it. But they do a phenomenal job.
Are there other of these events or charities that you'd like to touch on?
Well, the Rhode Island Foundation, Neil Steinberg, they do a great job, and they're kind of a huge umbrella organization. And it's interesting. We knew Neil from way back in his banker days, so he's got a great background for what he does at the Rhode Island Foundation. But when we met him at, it's funny because you think of the bank where you got to kind of go, not beg for the money, but you got to kind of like, okay, I need a loan to do this, and you're kind of asking for it. When he went to the Rhode Island Foundation and he was there for a while, and Ron and I and Nick at the time would run into him, and it was an interesting twist. He said, before people would come to us for money, he goes, we're looking to give money away. He goes, we've been blessed with money that people have given us, but their real charge is to give it to people, but obviously who really need it, that have a true concern and need it addressed, and are from the Rhode Island community. So they do a fabulous job at doing that. They've teamed up with the United Way of Rhode Island for this COVID response, raised a bunch of money. And it's kind of what Ron said. For people who could give, they gave. but also their response is, okay, we've got people that can give, they're giving, and they're the conduit. And then Neil and Chris and everybody at Rhode Island Foundation then also work with the agencies that need help. So there's groups, from Westerly all the way to Woonsocket and everywhere in between, and even in the Newport, that have needs, and they'll apply to, and it's a very quick, easy process to get to the Rhode Island Foundation and then get that support. So it's kind of a bank for the community, but not really a bank. And they do fabulous work. So they're collecting and working with that, but they're not only collecting, they're giving. So they work both sides of the street with that. They do a great job.
Pete and Ron, you mentioned COVID, and I was speaking to a general contractor over the weekend who said people have been locked in their homes for 3 months, and they're looking around and they're looking at projects they have to do, and general contractors are busier than ever. I imagine, some people have been locked in their homes. They're looking at their old furniture. They're getting uncomfortable on their old couches. Are you seeing an uptick in Rhode Island Design Center or in any particular room purchases or decorating solutions or anything like that?
We've been, blessed. We're busy. You're right. They've been stuck home. If we're going to wish misery on anything, we want their old furniture to go away. But yeah, no, because we can take them. Everybody is in a different point in life. So whether they want to spend $300 on a sofa or $3,000 or even more in some cases, then we can do it. So we take it across the gambit. Price is not the issue. It's a matter of how much they want to invest, how comfortable they want to be, how fussy they want to be. So whether it be the Design Center or Cardi's or Ashley or and no matter what room it is, but we have found you're right. People are unfortunately, we saw this after 9/11, and you're going to see this again, where it becomes the year of the home. And people are setting up their yards. So outdoor furniture has been incredibly busy. That took off first. And then, of course, you've got the living rooms and dining rooms and bedrooms, all these rooms that they weren't using as much of and now are using a lot of. So if they had an old piece, they're not comfortable with it, they're going to change it. If they want something that's more on the upper end scale or want it design oriented and go to the Design Center, then that's fine. We can do that too. So we can take it across the board. So whether it's somebody that's just taking a room, painting the wall and want to put a new living room set in there, or they want to deck out their backyard, excuse the expression, or they want to build a new home. And there's a lot of that still going on too. So whether it be remodeling or building, we do it across the board, across the gambit. And we're happy to be involved in it. So we look at it as what level is it important to them. So our job is to fit it into their budget, satisfy their needs, and just make sure they're comfortable with it, regardless of what their pocketbook dictates.
On CBS Sunday Morning over the weekend, there was a story done on Peloton and how the delivery has changed their whole life. What are some of the challenges or some of the things you're doing? Obviously you're sending men and women into other people's homes. How have you taken on that challenge?
So it's an interesting dynamic, Ryan. You bring up a good point. With Rhode Island, we have curbside delivery. So if people wish just to drop off, free delivery we have it available for curbside garage drop off. Outdoor furniture is contactless backyard drop off. So people that are in that circumstance, we can do. Rhode Island, we're delivering in home as needed if people need it, because furniture is a pretty big, heavy item, and that's part of it. Nursing homes, as we know, have been affected in a very difficult way. So what we arrange with nursing homes is we'll bring it to their loading dock, and their staff, again, it's contactless drop off to protect everybody. Our drivers wear masks, they have booties, they have gloves. And we'll drop it to their dock, and then they'll bring it in. When this first started, and we were talking to Frank about this, I think a couple of weeks ago, and when they basically shut down everything, FEMA had approached us, Rhode Island FEMA, and the governor's office, and we think the governor's done a fabulous job with this, and our local officials and senators and congressmen. But they were setting up I don't want to call it a halfway house. It may have the wrong connotation, but it was a home set up where if people were post-COVID and they needed to recuperate, they could handle that. So it was in various communities, whether it be with somewhere in Warwick, somewhere in Cranston, somewhere in Providence. They were everywhere. FEMA was working with it, some of the hospitals and what have you. And we helped them out with donations of furniture, mattresses, and whatever. And it happened so quickly because as soon as, you know, this thing hit and they shut everything down, they said, okay, we've got to stop putting these things in place. So we had to call them and say, well, you know, when they shut the roads down, we said, well, how are we going to get it there? So, Ryan, at that point, we're kind of dealing with the logistics of working our way through that. So obviously we worked that out with them and got that done. So from the very beginning of it, we were still moving product. That was kind of moving it with the government, through FEMA and what have you, to those homes because we had to get them there. And we were doing that also with Crossroads, Rhode Island. And then, you know, it went from there. New Hampshire is kind of a similar situation. In Massachusetts, hopefully we'll open up this week.
I wanted to, and I want to see if there are any other items that anybody wants to touch, Ryan or you guys. But I wanted you to particularly talk about your involvement with vets and vets organizations.
Well, we've been involved in that for a while. That goes back to actually our father. But the reality of it is that you know, Operation Stand Down is the most local prominent one, obviously. So they do the boots on the ground event, and they provide housing locally in Rhode Island for, I think it's over 100 or 120 vets, if I'm not mistaken. It's a helping hand up, not a handout, as they like to call it. And they just do a phenomenal job. We've also been involved a little bit with the Veterans Home and donated some stuff and sold some stuff. It depends which part it was, but we donated a lot there. And they do obviously yeoman's work again. So you can go on and on with the veterans organizations. I mean, there's obviously a need there. And from that perspective, you know, again, whether it be the Veterans Home or whether it be Operation Stand Down, and the work that they do in the community to help vets, and they do it from every walk of life. So they'll help them with everything from banking to dentistry to regular physicals to you name it. They do it. They have that program each year up at in Cumberland at Diamond Hill, where they bring in all specialties of the needs for the individual vets to make sure that they've got access to it. At either little or no cost, depending upon what their situation is. But they're impressive because they do a great job, and they're not there for the money. They're there to help the people, and they want to make sure that, because every vet is a different. You know, some will do very well, and some in the middle, and some unfortunately have had you know, a difficult time in life. So I mean, it's like that, I guess, in every group goes through this. But the bottom line is the vets, what can you say? What can you not say? What can you not do? So we try to do as much as we can. Can't do it all, but those two organizations are at the top of the list. Peter, did I forget anything on those two?
Well, on the other one, the other side of it, Frank, and it comes up now, is the Guard and Reserve. So employers support the Guard and Reserve is for the active duty Guard and Reserve people that are out there, the men and women. And we've been involved with that group all the way through, from here locally all the way to the White House. And we've had Guard and Reserve members here, and you think about, well, the Guard, what is it, you know, the weekend warrior, and it's not that. We had staff members that are still with us that were in the late 90s or the early 2000s that were deployed 3 times in war, you know, overseas. And so when you're that close to it, and we've seen some of the things that they go through in their family, the Guard and Reserve, the ESGR, Employers Support the Guard and Reserve, is really part of that thing, Frank, that goes back to what you asked about before. What kind of sensitivity training do you do? So this was another one we forgot about, but also with Guard and Reserve members, there are laws set up. There are things to happen. So as an example, if Frank was working with Cardi's and you were one of our team members, and then you went off and got deployed, there are things in place that have to happen for Frank's job. Frank can't get demoted. He can't lose his benefits. There's all these things that happen. So this is part of our sensitivity training also, that we have to realize that these, not only do these laws exist, but it's also the right thing to do. Because if you've got a person, male or female, that's going to grab a gun and go halfway around the world to defend our country, you want to make sure that their family's taken care of here, at least in the way that they've been used to in your employ. So that's what the ESGR is all about. So they're kind of the group that's working with a lot of the active people from the reserve perspective. The Veterans Home is obviously in our OSDRI, the people on that side of the equation. And we also work with the active duty people in various ways too. So it's there's so many components to it. I don't know if it was Hillary that said it or whatever, but she was right when she said, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes all of us to make things happen. So again, not to get political, but just use the words and give credit where credit was due. Is it really takes everybody, and from all these organizations. Sometimes you say, why are there so many? Because as Ron said too, everyone, the veterans are all at different levels of where they are in life and what they need for support. Same thing with the active people.
Excellent. Ryan, you have any other questions?
No, I think I'm good. I appreciate you guys joining us today. Just remind all of our watchers or our viewers or our listeners, you are located, some people may miss you sometimes, in Middletown, but you do have a mattress store right here in Middletown.
Yes, we do. We're right on is it East Main Road, Ron? Is that the name of the road?
West Main Road. West Main Road.
West Main Road, East Main Road, West. It's one of those roads.
West Main Road.
Some main road.
Yeah, some main road.
And,
right next to the BMW dealership, soon to move to the other side of the building.
Okay, yeah. So we're right in Middletown, so it's a close proximity there. Bob Fisher and JT run the store down there for us. They're wonderful gentlemen. So yes, it's a mattress store, but they can also help you with other products too. So we're right around the corner, and we invite people to come in anytime. We're open there 7 days a week.
I get East Main and West Main Road confused all the time. And the address is, I just looked it up quickly, 1235 West Main Road.
All right, there we go. So if you guys have to go, put
Thank
that
you
in
for
the
telling
GPS.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys. Of course,
Pete, thank
Cardis.com.
you. Once again, just admire what you do for the community. You run a great store, but more importantly, just the breadth of organizations that you're helping out there helps an awful lot of people.
We're trying our best. Thank you so much for having us. Much
Thank
appreciated.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Stay safe.
All right, it's there, Mr. Prosnitz. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good interview. I think touched on a lot of things and interesting about their views on the coronavirus and how they deal that. I really was interested in understanding about some of that sensitivity training, because I think that's important as we look out and as the things continue to develop. We are in interesting times. It's just pretty amazing. But they run a good store. They have always had a good heart, and they're always looking for ways to go out and help people. Go to their website, and you can see all of the organizations that they're supporting, and learn about events that are going on that you might have interest in.
Rhode Island icons, Nairobi.
They are indeed. And they lost a brother last year or the year before, so it's just the two of them now. It used to be the three of them, and I think Mom's still around. So
Excellent.
Very good.
Right, I want to thank everybody for checking us out here today, and we'll be back with another one-on-one conversation in the coming days here. We're always trying to line people up. If you have an idea of who we should be chatting with or a topic, just feel free to email me, Ryan@whatsupnuke.com. Thank you, Mr. Prosnitz.
Thank you, Ryan.